What is up, everybody? We are back. It is Friday, and today I want to talk a little bit about OCD, ERP, and where I'm at in my treatment. I realized that it's been a while since I've talked really just about OCD. I started to bring you guys along my journey in my OCD treatment, and then things changed a little bit. We started talking about other topics, so I recently got some comments on some of my old OCD videos, so I want to bring you guys back up to speed with my OCD treatment. And I want to start by saying this is not therapy, this is not a guide to therapy. I'm not a therapist. This is just my experience living with OCD my entire life and, now starting ERP treatment. So it has been a few months, probably about close to 5 months now, that I've been doing ERP. And what ERP is exposure response prevention. What we're doing is we're training our brain that, hey, we will expose ourselves to these triggers that alarm our fight or flight sense, and we will do nothing about them to teach our brain that there's really no danger in these irrational thoughts. So my OCD attacks contamination a lot. I worry about blood, HIV, hepatitis, things like that. Of course, the coronavirus now. But my OCD takes a lot of forms. If you've watched any of my videos, you can see that my OCD goes from theme to theme. I do repetitions. I do recently a lot of mental rumination and mental compulsion. So I got into ERP because I could see where my OCD was limiting my interaction with my child, was bothering me way too much about contamination with AIDS, and it was just starting to take up way too much of my headspace. So I did my research. I was going to a different therapist. It just wasn't working out. I didn't feel like he had the background in OCD that I needed. So I did my research and I found a wonderful doctor. And we've been working ever since. And we started by just kind of starting easily by working on not engaging with the mental ruminations, not really feeding into them, just letting them be there. And then we ramped it up a notch and we started to do actual ERP where I'm exposing myself to these triggers. Like, for instance, it's tough for me to even hear the words HIV or AIDS in a video. I don't like to even really write it or type it. So recently I've been doing a lot of writing it. I have sticky notes here that have the words HIV and AIDS on them because whenever I see them, if you have OCD, you know that what it feels like for my anxiety to spike really, really high. And when it does that, I used to do all these things to mitigate that, to make myself feel safe, to reassure myself that I'm not contaminated, to protect myself against other contaminations as I go out into the world. So now what I'm doing is when something triggers me, maybe something somebody says, or I write something down and it triggers me, I sit with that feeling and I almost go into it. So I start to kind of think like, oh my gosh, what if? Like, what if I do? What if somebody that I love does? And I sit with that and I let that anxiety really grab hold of me and I do nothing about it. And that is way more difficult than it seems. Like, wow, just do nothing. Not the same thing. So I just sit with it and I let it be there and I almost try to go into it until eventually that anxiety goes down and I start to not worry so much about that particular incident, and then I move on with my day. Another one might be I have a problem doing things 4 times. I like to do things 3 times, whether it's turn off the coffee pot, whatever it may be. So now instead of doing it 3 times, I do it fourth because the fourth triggers me into that magic thinking, and I start thinking that if I did that 4 times, that now these bad things will happen, or I will become contaminated, or something bad will happen to my child. She'll get coronavirus, whatever it may be. So I do that the 4 times and then I sit with it and I'm okay with the uncertainty. And I just allow that anxiety to be there and let it pass. And over time, you train your brain, and then I'll do things 4 times because they need to be done 4 times, and I don't even notice it. And from time to time, that'll happen. And another one is like with coronavirus. I'm was washing my hands all the time. I was disinfecting everything. And I was doing that not because there was an actual threat, because of a thought that I would have. So I've been really working on only addressing the threats, not the thoughts. And when I can do all of those things, man, it really opens up my headspace, and I'm able to really just live life again. And I can't